The action takes place at night, a storm is raging in the sky and a loud sound of thunder is heard. A small stall sells street food, smoke rises from there and the aroma of food is heard. A man looks at comments on his smartphone, he laughs and says that all the comments are wishes. He tells the other man at the counter that if he hadn't seen them in the car together, he would still be chasing that girl. His interlocutor says nothing in response and continues to drink from the bottle. The man says that he will continue to watch them to be absolutely sure that he is not mistaken. His interlocutor's name is Zhang Ma and he is 21 years old. He understands and tells the guy to stop laughing. They ask him where he was going to go, and he answers that he went to the restroom. He leaves and says that he will take revenge on them. The interlocutor tells him to calm down, since the girl's father is an important person. The guy says he intends to do it anyway, no matter what. His interlocutor's name is Li Dekue, and he is also 21 years old. He looks at the guy, but doesn't answer. There is a deafening sound of thunder and lightning strikes next to an electric pole not far from the counter. The hero goes there to relieve himself. At this moment, a bolt of lightning strikes an electric pole, right next to which the guy is standing. The flow of electricity from a lightning strike is directed down the pole towards the main character. The discharge hits the hero, causing him to lose control of his body. The hero manages to think that he was struck by lightning and thinks with annoyance that he is a loser. He closes his eyes, swears and is sure that now his life is over and he will not survive. 3 days after the incident, the hero finds himself in the building of the city hospital. The hero's acquaintance, Li Dekue, asks the doctor why the hero has not woken up yet. They tell him that he is in a coma and there is nothing to worry about. The doctor looks at the guy and asks if he is a foreigner, since his eye pupils are red. He opens his eyelids and sees that the hero really has bright red eyes. Li Dekue is surprised and asks what the doctor means when he talks about red eyes. He checks on his own and opens the hero's eyelids. He sees that his eyes are red. The hero's eyes reflect the episode on the summer beach. The hero sees that he is on the beach. There are girls running everywhere. He lies down and drinks a drink from a straw. Girls play with each other and pour sea water on their friends. Others sunbathe, communicate with each other and relax quietly. A girl approaches the hero. She refers to him as brother and asks if he will help her apply sunscreen. The hero is shy and looks at her. He pulls the headphones out of his ears and stammers, not sure what to say. She asks him again and hands him a package of sunscreen. The hero finally agrees and reaches out to take the package of cream from the girl. Suddenly the girl's face turns into Li Dekue's face. He suggests going somewhere together in the evening. The hero shouts out the name of a friend in shock and does not understand what happened. He abruptly rises from the hospital bed and screams loudly. The doctor notes that he is awake and decides to check his pupils using a flashlight. The hero realizes the torso and accidentally hits the doctor hard in the head. The doctor, unhappy with the blow, calls the nurse into the room and says that the patient has regained consciousness. He says that 2 more should come, because there are wounded here. He means his blow to the head. The door opens and the nurses say they have arrived. 3 girls in nurses' uniforms enter the room. They smile welcomingly. The hero blushes and thinks embarrassedly that the girls are very beautiful. The hero notices with surprise that now his eyes see things more clearly. He looks at the chest of one of the arriving nurses. He continues to watch and is surprised when he feels that something is wrong with him. The hero thinks in shock that something happened to him. Then the hero decides that these are just hallucinations after the injury and calms down. He rubbed his eyes and looked back at the nurses. He starts to blush again. He sees girls around him without clothes, and notes that it is beautiful. He begins to blush even more and is surprised at what is happening. He is shocked that he can now see through his clothes and does not understand what is happening to him. One of the nurses comes over to him and tells him to relax and they will now run tests, starting with taking his blood pressure. The hero again cannot believe his eyes when he realizes that he is able to see through their clothes. The nurse tells the hero that if the check does not reveal any problems with his health, he will be discharged from the hospital this afternoon. She tells the hero not to worry as this is just a blood pressure test. She asks the guy if he feels discomfort in any part of his body. The hero feels uncomfortable because the nurse is nearby. He says she came too close to him. He blushes and is embarrassed. An acquaintance of the main character left the room and looked somewhere in fascination. The nurse tells the hero that his health is fine and he can now be discharged from the hospital. Li Dekue looks at young girls who play sports. He tells Jean-Ma to stay in the hospital for another week, since there is a gym nearby. He looks at the girls lovingly. The nurse displeasedly tells him to stop peeking and go after her to pay for the treatment. The nurse looks at the main character and thinks upset that he no longer remembers her. The smartphone protagonist uses a web search to find information regarding X-ray vision. He finds information about abilities that transcend the five senses. He reads the article in surprise. It says that sometimes people after a near-death experience can develop supernatural abilities. The hero gets out of bed and thinks that the lightning strike gave him the ability to see through objects. He decides not to tell Lee De-Kuei anything because he will think that the hero has gone mad after being struck by lightning. The hero looks down and sees a bed with a patient and a nurse standing next to him. He is surprised and thinks about what it is. He gets nervous and notes that the floor of the building has disappeared underneath him. He sees several floors at once, since the floor of each floor has become invisible to him. He is frightened by what he sees and sees 4 floors of the hospital at once. The hero gets down on all fours and is afraid to fall. He thinks that this is unexpected and that it is very scary. He crawls on all fours towards the door. The hero thinks that he cannot stand on his feet normally. He says he's glad he gained supervision, but now he can't use stairs. He gets annoyed and says that it is at this inconvenient moment that he needs to go to the restroom. The hero enters the restroom on all fours, but does not notice the women's restroom sign on the door. He finishes doing his job, and sighs with relief, and says how good he feels. He comes out of the booth and says that he can't stand at all, but luckily he's smart. At this moment, 2 nurses enter the restroom. They discuss the annoying guy among themselves and laugh. They were dumbfounded when they saw the main character on the floor on all fours. The hero looks at them in surprise. The nurses run out screaming and shouting that there is a pervert in the restroom. The hero tries to explain to them that he is not a pervert, but they have already run away from there. He says with concern that he was in such a hurry that he ended up in the women's restroom by mistake. He notices a point on the floor nearby that glows with an unnatural purple light. He looks in surprise at the incomprehensible phenomenon and asks what it is. He leans over and looks inside. He says he sees air flowing inside. He sees a sewer drain and says that he feels as if he is being sucked inside. The hero is surprised and realizes that his supernatural vision can even see through the pipeline. He looks at the flow of water that goes through the pipe. The hero watches how the water turns through the pipes. He notices that in the distance of the pipeline there is a distant light. He sees an exit from the back of the pipe at the other end of the pipeline. He says it's time to see the invisible and notices something on the other end. At this moment, a woman sits on the toilet. The hero sees this with the help of supernatural vision. She notices something as she sits down. She becomes uncomfortable. The woman notes that she feels like someone is watching her. She feels disgusted. The hero turns away and says that this will now become a psychological trauma for him for the rest of his life. The nurses run into the restroom, bringing with them a third, the one who looked after the hero. They point at the guy and say there is a pervert here. She is surprised when she sees the guy and asks if it is really Jean-Ma. Lee De-Kuei asks with concern what happened to the main character. He takes him in his arms and tells him not to scare him and to finally wake up. Later, in the courtyard, the nurse tells the guy that it was a misunderstanding and that he can now leave the hospital safely. He thanks the girl and apologizes for the inconvenience. She modestly replies that it is her job. He says that if a girl needs help, she can contact him, and he will willingly help. She hesitantly asks if any problems can be addressed. The guy boldly says that he never goes back on his own words. The nurse blushes and says that she just needs help. He gets embarrassed and blushes even more in front of the guy before speaking. She asks Jean-Ma if he can be her boyfriend. Further events unfold at the university the next day. 2 guys are walking together. Lee De-Kuei asks the main character what the doctor told him. The hero replies that he did not listen to him and stops in place. He says that the girl asked him to become her boyfriend. Lee De-Kuei is surprised and asks if he is serious. He is upset and says that he paid for Jean-Ma's treatment and met the nurse first, and now he stole the girl behind his back. The main character is thoughtful and remembers a past conversation with a nurse. The girl says she asks him to pretend to be her boyfriend at the party and understands that this will put the guy in an awkward position. She blushes and asks stammeringly if he could help her with this matter. The main character is discouraged and hesitantly agrees to the nurse's proposal. Jean-Ma tells his friend that he was joking and that the girl just asked him to pretend. Lee De-kue says that he knew he was joking and tells Jeong-ma to return the money for his treatment. The hero says displeasedly that for him money is more important than their friendship. He again tells him to return them. They are noticed by a young man passing by. He recognizes the main character and asks if he was recently struck by lightning. In front of them stands a guy with a girl and two bodyguards in suits. The girl's name is Sun Na Na. She is 19 years old and she once dated Jeong-ma. She complains that meeting such nonentities spoiled her pleasure from the walk. The main character mockingly says that Sun Na Na and her boyfriend, Mr. Lee, are a couple of dogs. He asks if they wanted to visit him. The young man gets angry and asks the hero if he wants to die. His name is Lee Ningyu. He is 21 years old and he is the heir to a successful corporation. A crowd begins to gather around them. People recognize them and discuss among themselves that Lee Ningyu stole the girl from Jeong-ma. They note that Lee Ningyu is the son of the head of the hentai corporation. Lee Ningyu is worried about the fact that there are too many people nearby. He tells the hero that given his high position in society, he should not reckon with people like Jeong-ma. Lee Ningyu asks if he knows who his father is, and the hero replies that his father is Jeong-ma himself. The audience starts laughing at the main character's comment, which angers Lee Ningyu even more. He shouts that his father is the boss of the hentai company and asks if the hero has the courage to laugh now. The main character mockingly and sarcastically says that he is very scared. Lee Ningyu tells the hero to kneel and then he will forgive him. Lee De-kue tells Lee Ningyu not to be angry and offers to treat him to dinner as an apology. Lee Ningyu looks at him and mocks the guy. He says he doesn't deserve it and raises his hand to kick. Lee De-kue squints in fear and curses in his thoughts when he realizes that he is about to get hit. A confident look appears on the protagonist's face as he decides to intervene. He stops Lee Ningyu's punch with his hand before it reaches its target. Lee Ningyu gets even angrier and screams, asking how he dared to stop him. He asks if the hero wants to die and screams at him, intending to punch him. The hero puts his hand in front of him and blocks the enemy's blow. With a slight push, Lee Ningyu flies away. This appearance surprises the main character, and he curses. With a loud sound, Lee Ningyu flies into a trash can several meters away from the hero. The hero looks in shock at the distance the enemy has traveled from his push. Lee Ningyu lies there, unable to get up after hitting the trash can. The hero looks at his hand and thinks that, apparently, after the incident with lightning, he acquired not only supernatural vision. After what happened earlier, the hero is called to the staff room and scolded. He is told that he got into huge trouble by hitting Lee Ningyu. Lee De-kue sits anxiously nearby and waits for the hero's return. The teacher shouts that he won't be able to help if someone comes from Lee Ningyu to sort it out. Lee De-kue notices the main character finally leaving the staff room. The guy comes out and thanks the teacher. The door is closed behind him. Lee De-kue runs up worriedly and asks if Jeong-ma is okay. The guy replies that everything is fine with him, and he was just scolded a little for the incident. Lee De-kue asks when he became so cool and notes that he didn't even notice how he took down Lee Ningyu. Lee De-kue makes a gesture of punching the air. The hero jokingly says that he put him down with his hands, not his head. The guy becomes silent and thinks about something. Lee De-kue says that it was nice to see Lee Ningyu being put in his place and says that he can walk through the forest. The hero tells him not to flatter him. He also says that since he saved him today, the issue of paying for treatment is removed. Lee De-kue shouts that the issue has not been resolved, but the hero begins to run away from him along the corridor. Further events unfold a little later in the prestigious Imperial Hospital. They explain to the woman that Lee Ning-kue is fine and that he lost consciousness from what happened. She smokes in the room and asks what about his bodyguards. She hits the first one, causing him to wince. She then hits the second man forcefully. She says they have 3 days to find the person who hit Lee Ningyu. Men look at women with fear. She threatens them and says that if they fail, they will not lie on the ground, but under it. At that moment, a man approaches her and hands her a phone, which someone calls. She looks at her smartphone screen and sees that Lee Wan-yu is calling her. After this, events take place in the protagonist's dormitory, at night of the same day. He looks at the reflection of his face in the phone, taking a closer look at the color of his eyes. The hero looks at his red eyes and thinks. He thinks that after being struck by lightning, his eyes turned red and began to see through objects. The hero remembers the situation with the nurses immediately after he woke up. He also remembers how his slight push threw Lee Ningyu a huge distance. He recalls that he had no idea that the blow would be so strong. The hero thinks that he can use his newfound powers to save the world and optimistically imagines future success in life. He happily thinks that he will have many fans in the future. Suddenly, he hears a voice nearby that says that this is all nonsense. The hero looks at the door and asks who is here. Then he sees a bright light and covers his eyes with his hand. He finds himself in an incomprehensible blue space. He asks where he is and the voice says that he is in the spirit world, that Yixing is communicating with him, and that the lightning was her spiritual energy. The guy says he doesn't care and demands that she take him back. She replies that his body is still in the dorm, but his soul is here. Zhongma gets scared and says that he doesn't want to die if she is a soul collector. The creature says that he is not dead and can return to his body. She explains that the hero's powers are part of her powers, and that she needs the hero to help her get out. He asks in bewilderment and surprise what this means. This action continues in the hostel that night. A man comes to the door of the building and says that they are there. There are several men in suits standing there. One of them approaches his boss and says that the man who hit Li Ningyu lives here. He reports and says that he lives on the 6th floor, in apartment number 6081 and that his name is Zhong Ma. Hearing this, the boss looks at the building with a neutral expression and says nothing. The hero is still in the spiritual world. He sees streams of bluish energy. Yixing says that she cannot stay here for long, and that she will give the hero a system to train the skills of immortals. She tells the surprised hero that the system will teach him how to control and improve his superpowers. She touches the guy's hand, leaving a mark there. He screams in pain and surprise. The guy curses as the mark on his hand burns. This mark turns out to be a blue tattoo with a mysterious symbol. Yixing tells the hero to train and improve his skills, and that they will see each other later. The hero tells her to wait, but the creature has already melted into thin air. He says she never told him how to use the tattoo. After that, the hero woke up in his dorm room, alone. He is surprised and looks around the room. There is no one there. He is sitting alone in the dorm. The hero thinks that the dream was very strange, but felt very real. He remembers that in a dream he got a tattoo and looks at his hand. He is surprised when he sees that the tattoo from his dream is on his forearm. He curses when he realizes that this actually happened. He sullenly thinks that it's just a tattoo, and that he hasn't been told how to use it. Suddenly, a stream of light begins to flow from the tattoo on his arm, which surprises the hero. He hears a voice that is unhappy that the hero considers him an ordinary tattoo. The voice says that he is the best cultivation system in the world of immortals. Buttons are visible during training. The amazed hero looks at the buttons that appear and asks what the cultivation system is. The voice says that he will help the hero become the strongest man on earth and in heaven. The hero skeptically declares that this is nonsense. The voice states that his stats are lower than those of a normal mortal, and even with the spiritual power he gained, his energy is only 50 units. The hero is outraged by this. In response, the hero is suddenly struck by a current charge. The voice says this will happen if he is disrespectful. He says that his name is Ah Xiu, and that with his help the hero will be able to develop skills and learn to control spiritual energy. Ah Xiu says that the master transferred the power to him, but still retains a small part of it. He tells the main character to concentrate and try to perceive the energy in the room using his vision. The hero obeys. He exhales and opens his eyes after meditating. He is surprised and opens his eyes wide when he sees the energy. Endless streams of multicolored energy swirl around him. The hero looks at them in fascination, and Xiu says that this is what this world really looks like. The hero talks about his life and his thoughts. He remembers how he studied at the university. He thinks about how he was an ordinary student at Beijing Capital Medical University. A few days ago, he was struck by lightning, causing him to gain incredible superhuman abilities. Then he learned something even more incredible about these powers. As it turns out, the source is an immortal being from the spiritual world named Yixing. Despite the fact that the hero saw all this with his own eyes, he still cannot fully believe what is happening. The system tells the hero not to be surprised because these are just the basics. The system tells the hero that he can see spiritual energy in the room, and that spiritual power is concentrated in his eyes, which gives him the ability to see through walls. The hero is meditating. The system says that if the hero concentrates, he will be able to see spiritual energy in any objects. The hero is surprised to note that he can even see a mouse in the pipe. He notices that he can see his friend in the other room, he is delighted with his abilities. He is then even more surprised when he realizes that he can see the insect on his friend. He is delighted to say that he has figured out why he can see through objects. This is because spiritual energy can sense movement around it. The system agrees with this and says that now the hero will learn how to gain power. The system says that nothing appears or disappears on its own, energy can only change shape and move. The hero says that these are the basics of physics, which he learned at school. The system explains that people consume food and water, and immortals absorb spiritual energy from objects that are filled with it. The system says that it will help the hero turn spiritual items into power. The hero is surprised to hear this. The system explains by analogy with a building. When constructing a building, the sum of all its components will be equal to its energy. The system tells the hero that in this example, the building will be the force needed for cultivation. The system says that suitable items would be ancient antiques made from rare materials and Master Lao Tzu's spiritual pill. The hero is surprised and asks the system about antiques. The system says that it is the best creation of Master Yisheng, and she says that she is able to obtain information from books to quickly master skills. The system also says that it can help the hero create an immortality pill in an alchemical furnace. The hero gloomily says that this is all very unscientific. He then smiles widely and asks if this might help him learn the information from his textbooks for next week's test. In response, the system hits the hero with an electric current. The dissatisfied and indignant system says that it offers to study secret knowledge, and the hero wants to use it to prepare for the test. The hero looks at a pile of scattered books and notices one of them, on which a boxer is drawn. He asks if he can use the system to study a book on combat skills. The system says this book will do and says it will take 5 minutes. The hero rejoices and throws the book into the floating screen of the system. The 5-minute timer begins. The hero is delighted. He happily says that this is the best moment of his life. At this moment, in the hallway of the dorm, the elevator arrives at the 6th floor. A man comes out with brass knuckles on his hand and asks if this is room number 6081. Several accomplices with baseball bats stand next to him. They find the right room number and look at the door. Then one of them, with a loud scream, opens the door to the main character's room with a strong kick. Several men with bats enter the dorm room door. Li Dekue wakes up there. He asks who is there and complains about the noise in the middle of the night. A look of shock appears on his face as he is grabbed. The man forcefully throws Li Dekue off the bed and onto the floor. He falls with a loud sound. The bald man asks him where Zhong Ma is. Li Dekue unhappily asks who they are. A fist immediately hits him in the face with a loud sound. Li Dekue makes a strangled sound of pain. He flies to the floor a meter away from the man. His body makes a splash as it falls. Li Dekue is outraged that he had the courage to hit him. He holds his face. Then he looks at the man's expressionless face and recognizes him. He thinks with surprise that he remembered where he had already seen him. Li Dekue remembers that it was one of Li Ningyu's bodyguards who was hit by Zhong Ma. Li Dekue says he doesn't know where Zhong Ma is now. He screams and protests as his bodyguards tie his hands and gag him. In the next room is the main character, who heard a noise nearby. He tells the system that based on the sound, someone broke into Li Dekue's place. There are still 2.5 minutes left on the system timer. The hero hears muffled screams from behind the door. He wonders why Li Dekue is shouting so much. The system tells him not to rush in, because a lot of energy has been noticed there. She invites the hero to first look at what is happening. The hero closes his eyes and begins to concentrate on the spiritual energy around him. With his supernatural vision, he sees a group of men and a bound Li Dekue. He notes that they grab the guy and are heading towards his room. They come to the door. The hero notices with concern that the group has already approached the door of his room. He remembers the shock earlier, and believes that it was not enough to kill the guards. He starts to open the door. With his push, the door swings open with great force and hits one of the men, throwing him back. The other men call him boss and ask him if he's okay. The boss holds his head and doesn't answer. The boss looks at his hand and sees blood flowing from his nose. He gets up and yells at Zhong Ma, and angrily asks if he is blind. The hero jokingly replies that it was the door that blinded him, not him, and asks if the man is okay. Worried and tied up, Li Dekue begins to moo, but is unable to make any sounds. The surprised guard recognizes the guy and asks if he is Zhong Ma. The man shouts that it is Zhongma and tells the others to grab him. The hero raises his hands and shouts to the men to wait. He approaches one of them and points his finger in its direction. The man is confused and does not understand what the guy is trying to do. The hero pokes his finger at the guard's shoulder. Nothing happens. For an awkward moment they are silent and look at each other. The hero is nervous. The man gets angry and shouts that the guy decided to play with him. He raises his fist to strike. Zhongma becomes even more nervous and asks where the strength he had during the day is. He begins to run away from his pursuers along the dorm corridor. The system explains to him that he was previously so strong because Yixing's power was unstable. Now he is weak in battle. The hero asks displeasedly if it was impossible to say about this earlier. He runs up to the elevator, but is guarded, causing the guy to stop. The hero thinks with concern that now he has nowhere to run and that he is surrounded by opponents. Zhongma stands in the hallway of the dormitory and looks at the bandits with a serious expression on his face. Their boss happily states that although Zhongma is quite famous, he is now finished. The boss offers to hit the main character and then take him to Li Ningyu's house, where he will be killed. The bound Li Dekue resolutely shouts to the hero to quickly run away from here. One of the guards yells at him to shut up and punches the guy in the face. The hero gets angry when he sees them beating his friend. Li Dekue again tells him to run away from here. The bandits start kicking the guy and shouting at him to shut up. The boss mockingly says that Zhongma would like to escape, but he is surrounded and cannot. The system tells the hero that the book has been studied and that he can now apply the knowledge from it. The system warns him that his power level is now several times greater than that of an ordinary person, and that he could kill bandits if he is not careful. The hero gets angry and says that the bandits are finished now. One of the guards advances on the motionless Li Dekue. The hero tells them to keep their feet away from his friend, otherwise they will die. The bandits look at Zhongma in bewilderment, not understanding what he is talking about. They start laughing at Zhongma, and say that the hero is completely crazy. One of the guards says that the time has come to answer for your words. He approaches Zhongma and taunts him. The guy raises his hand to strike. The hero punches the bandit in the face with enormous force and a loud sound. He didn't even have time to notice the blow. The bandit is thrown back by the force of the protagonist's blow. He flies away from the hero to the opposite side of the room. The rest of the bandits look stunned at their accomplice, who lies motionless on the floor. The hero shouts that they are finished because they broke into his house and beat up his friend. The boss shouts to his subordinates not to look, but to attack the guy. They shout together that the guy is finished and attack him with their fists. The hero confidently begins to run towards the three big men. With great speed, it strikes the nearest attacker. The force of the blow sends him flying to the side. The man is surprised at the speed of the main character. The guy instantly closes the distance and attacks the man. The man screams with fear in his voice and asks what the main character is doing. The hero raises his hand and angrily says that the guard's head is crooked and offers to correct it. He says that this guard hit Li Dekue the hardest and hits him in the face with great force. The enormous force of the hero's blow sends his opponent flying several meters in the opposite direction. The guard's face is mutilated, he lies motionless. The rest of the accomplices are shocked by this and frightened by the strength of the protagonist. The guy threateningly asks the guards why they are not moving. He shouts for them to come if they want to die, and if not, to leave here. The bandits are scared and stand still when they hear the main character. Li Dekue lies on the floor and admires how cool his friend is. Finally, the bandits begin to run away as fast as they can, throwing away their weapons. The boss gets angry at them and shouts, asking why they were scared of some kid. He shouts at the hero and says that he is a dead man, then he puts on his brass knuckles. The boss shouts to the main character that he doesn't know who he's talking to. He swings his fist at the hero. The boss jumps on the hero. Li Dekue shouts to prevent the hero from getting hit. The boss hits, but the hero moves his head to the side and easily dodges the blow. Using the acquired evasive skills, the guy quickly goes behind his opponent's back. Zhongma forcefully grabs his opponent's face, causing him to get scared and start cursing. The hero with a cold expression on his face tells him to promise that he will not return here again. He then slams the opponent to the ground with great force. With a loud sound, the boss falls to the floor. He's in a lot of pain. The boss weakly gets up and says that he will bring even more people tomorrow to deal with the hero. He then breaks off his sentence as he notices the hero approaching him. The guy swings his leg to hit the enemy. He delivers a strong and loud blow to the opponent's head. The boss flies away from him. He thinks that Jeong Ma is very strong. The boss thinks that he does not want to be his enemy and admires him. Lee De-Kue is surprised by the hero's strength. After this, the action takes place in the morning of the next day, near the hostel building. A police car drives up to the building and a girl gets out and asks if they called the police. Two guys look at the policewoman enthusiastically and think that she is very attractive. The girl says that she is Officer Lee and that she was assigned to this case. She is 20. Lee De-Kue continues to look at her lovingly and asks if he can come with her to help with the investigation. The girl politely says that this is not necessary, and that she will contact them if the need arises. The guys agree and invite the girl to exchange numbers, but she gives a vague answer. She then gets into the police car and drives away from the dorm building. The hero suddenly remembers that he promised Li Hui-ru that he would go to the party with her, and realizes that he is already late. A little later, a police car stops under a bridge. A police officer comes out. She swears at those present and says that they could not deal with one student. She says that if she had not arrived on time, their actions would have gotten her brother into trouble. She says it's good that they don't know that she is Li Mingyu's sister. The guards apologize and say that Jeong Ma is very strong. She tells the guards that it is no longer their concern and tells them to report everything to her brother. She thinks with determination that she will test how strong Jeong Ma is. After this, events take place in a luxurious building where the main character came to a party. He is surprised at how luxurious this place is. His friend says that this is also her first time here. She thanks the hero, saying that she would not have come here alone. She hopes that the guy will continue to keep her company. Jeong Ma is embarrassed and agrees with her words. They are stopped by a turnstile that does not open in front of them. He makes a squeak. The butler approaches them and says that this is a VIP area for special guests and asks for invitations. The girl is surprised and asks again. She doesn't know anything about invitation cards. The butler mockingly suggests that they decided to sneak in only to steal food and drinks. The hero is indignant at this assumption. The butler says that he has seen such people many times before. Not far away, a young man spots them and recognizes Dr. Hui-ru. The guy says he didn't expect them to come and asks if Jeong Ma is her boyfriend. He laughs at them and calls the hero a loser. The man tells them to be allowed inside, as they are incapable of anything other than photographing such events. The hero gets angry and says that people like this man only see the social status of other people. The girl recommends not to provoke him. The event program begins. The host says that he is glad to see everyone who came to the party for medical workers. The chairman of the medical society says he is pleased to welcome Dr. Jean Tai to the meeting. It turns out to be the guy who mocked the hero. The chairman says from the stage that Dr. Jean Tai has received many awards. The chairman asks to greet the guest and listen to his speech. The audience waits until the doctor comes on stage to the pulpit. The chairman's face changes dramatically. For some reason he is grimacing in pain. He grabs his chest and makes a small sound of pain. The hero thinks that the chairman looks bad and probably has some health problems. Suddenly the chairman falls to the ground and starts coughing up blood. The hero is shocked by what he sees. The chairman falls to the ground right on stage and loses consciousness. People start screaming when they see the chairman collapse. The chairman lies on the floor, motionless. Blood is flowing from his mouth. Dr. Jean Tai calms the others. He says that he can save him. He assumes it was a heart attack that caused the bloody cough. He asks to be given a set of needles, and is quickly given one. The doctor smugly says that this disease will not cause him any problems, and that he can fix everything with one single injection. The system turns to the hero and says that the chairman is also a cultivator, but he is using the wrong technique. The hero is surprised. The system says that it was not a heart attack at all, but a leak of spiritual energy, which in turn caused stress on the body. The system says that this heart attack was caused by incorrect technique. Then the old man will not live even 3 hours. She tells the hero to stop the doctor. The hero, with a confident expression on his face, loudly says for the doctor to wait. The hero says that this was no ordinary heart attack, and that continued treatment will kill the patient. The doctor notices the guy. He recognizes him and gloomily answers whether he decided to pester him again. People around him laugh behind the main character's back. They are sure that he is a complete fool if he doubts Jean Tai's treatment. The doctor tells the guards to take the main character away, as this could lead to problems for the life of the chairman. He says that if his treatment doesn't work, he will quit practicing medicine and gives acupuncture to the chairman. The chairman immediately woke up and the public noticed it, but then he continued to cough up blood, as before. Those around him are panicking because the chairman's condition has worsened even more. The doctor is surprised and does not understand why the treatment did not help if all the symptoms pointed to a heart attack. The main character speaks loudly to be let through to the chairman. The system tells the hero that he has very little time while the chairman is alive. The system tells Jean-Ma to concentrate spiritual energy in his eyes and see the acupuncture point. The hero closes his eyes and begins to concentrate. The system tells him to use a needle to close the desired point and then close the spiritual boundary located on the neck. The hero with a concentrated expression on his face begins treatment. The hero begins to complain to the system that this technique is too complicated. The system says that there is no need to panic, and that we need to hurry to save his life. The hero makes an injection. After this, the chairman opens his eyes and looks at the main character. He smiles. The audience rejoices that the chairman has finally woken up. The hero smiles, the audience is delighted and says that he is incredible and that he was able to cure a person so easily. The public then begins to mock the doctor, calling him a charlatan. He gets angry when he hears this. The chairman thanks the guy and asks how he was able to save him. The hero modestly replies that he simply saw that the chairman was in danger. The chairman invites the guy to go upstairs so he can thank him. The hero agrees. The guy approaches his friend and tells her to go first while he talks with the chairman. She says that she was scared and that she had no idea that he was so good at medicine. The hero enters the elevator and tells her to go home and be careful. He waves his hand at her and smiles. The girl tells him not to worry. The elevator door closes. The doctor instructs the girl to extract all the information about Jean-Ma and then kill him if he has no patrons. After this, the hero finds himself in a luxuriously furnished room, where the chairman invited him. He thanks the guy again for saving him and asks what his name is. The guy replies that there is no need to be so polite and that his name is Jean-Ma. The chairman says that people who can cure his illness are rare, and asks the guy if he is a cultivator. He replies that he is not a cultivator and just knows a little about medicine. The chairman says that Jean-Ma is very humble and says that he has a gift for him. A girl enters the room and opens a case filled to the brim with banknotes. The hero looks stunned at the huge amount of money with a surprised expression on his face. The hero is shocked. He thinks that the chairman is very generous and that he has never seen such money. The guy nervously thinks that he cannot disgrace himself and that he must demonstrate self-esteem. He closes the case and says that the chairman is too generous and that he cannot accept such a gift. In response to this, the chairman laughs and says that the guy has a good sense of humor. After this, events unfold again at the entrance to the building where the medical meeting took place. An expensive car drives up there and stops at the entrance to the building. The door opens and a young girl comes out. This is Gao Mei-zi, the granddaughter of the chairman. She is 20. The men nearby look in fascination and comment, "She is so beautiful." The doctor comes up to her and tells her that her grandfather is fine and that she should not have come. The girl ignores him and moves on to the elevator. The doctor turns to her again. She doesn't say anything and the doctor decides to call the elevator for her and presses the button. She goes into the richly furnished room of the chairman. The main character and the chairman are sitting at the table. The chairman invites the guy to join him for a while. He agrees. The chairman's granddaughter runs into the room. She cries and asks if her grandfather is okay and says he scared her a lot. The chairman smiles and says that he is completely fine and that it is all thanks to the guy and his medical skills. The girl notices that he is a simple student. The chairman says that she is unfair to him and that he saved his life. A doctor enters the room and says that the chairman should be careful, since Jean-Ma does not know anything about medicine and could harm him. The hero sarcastically notes that the one who harmed the chairman's health was the doctor himself. The doctor starts to get angry. He thinks that he will be able to win back when his people find information about Jean-Ma. At this time, a girl comes to the doctor and addresses him. She comes up and starts whispering something in his ear for a while. Filled with confidence, the doctor offers the hero a competition in medical skills. If he wins, the hero will receive 10 million yuan, and if he loses, he will lose both hands. The doctor thinks that his people found out that Jean-Ma is an ordinary student. He's gloating. The chairman intervenes and begins to indignantly say that the guy saved his life, and that the doctor should not criticize him. The hero, with a smug look, says that he agrees to these conditions, and that he is going to get this money. The system asks why he accepted the offer and says that it will not be able to help if he loses. The hero gloomily asks why they didn't tell him before. The doctor says that Ms. Gao has a rare disease. If the hero can cure her illness, he will recognize Zhong Ma's victory. The girl is embarrassed and asks what the doctor just said. She blushes and feels awkward when she hears about the terms of the competition. The doctor explains that Mei Ci, although not a child, still has no control over her urination. The girl herself is embarrassed. She is clearly very uncomfortable when her illness is publicly discussed. The doctor continues to say that she sometimes pees in gym class. He laughs and says that she still has childish problems, even though she is cute. The girl gets embarrassed, blushes and starts crying. The action continues in the same building. The chairman says that he wanted to ask Zhong Ma about it, but was shy. The girl is outraged and says that she will not allow him to do this. The hero calms her down and says that there is nothing wrong with it. He secretly asks the system if the condition can be cured. He is surprised when he does not see the system interface nearby. He stupidly asks where she is. The chairman says that he is asking for help for his granddaughter. The hero awkwardly agrees. He begins to get nervous that the system has disappeared at such an important moment. The doctor mockingly says that even his mentor could not cure this disease and asks if the main character can do it. The hero tells the chairman that he needs a quiet and peaceful place without strangers. The chairman points to the stairs and says that there are free rooms at the top. He tells his granddaughter to come with him so that he can heal her. She is surprised. The girl threatens the guy with injury if he thinks of doing anything inappropriate. She begins to walk up the stairs and tells the hero to follow her. The hero is nervous and thinks that he needs to stall for time until the system returns. He thinks that the system should return as soon as possible, since he will not last long with such a woman. They rise and enter a neatly appointed room with a large bed. The girl threateningly says that if he decides to do something indecent, she will take care of him. She clenches her fist forcefully, demonstrating what she will do to him. The hero is scared and nervous and answers with an awkward laugh that he won't do anything indecent. He tells Ms. Gao to lie down on the bed to begin the treatment. She takes off her shoes, asks him again, and lies down on the bed. The girl lies down in a seductive position and asks if this is how she needs to lie down. The hero is embarrassed and tells her to just lie down and not move. The hero gets angry and thinks that perhaps the system is broken and calls it useless garbage. At this moment, a system appears that scolds him for calling it garbage and shocks the hero. From the electric shock, he loses his balance and falls right on top of the girl. He hits his forehead on her stomach, causing an awkward scene. The hero awkwardly apologizes and says that he tripped and is now ready to begin treatment. He is glad that the system has returned. The hero apologizes to the system and asks what he should do. She replies that urination can have many causes and suggests using vision to determine the cause. The hero agrees and resolutely concentrates on his supernatural vision. He looks at the girl's body and sees a red glow in her lower abdomen. He notes that this power affects her entire body. The system says these are symptoms of a fire. She suggests using acupuncture and massage for treatment. The hero asks the girl to undress for the treatment procedure. The girl becomes even more embarrassed and asks the hero what he is going to do. In the room below, the doctor tells the chairman that the treatment has been going on for several hours and that Zhong Ma is probably deceiving him. The chairman replies that they should wait a little longer. He thinks about how he believes in Zhong Ma and really wants him not to let him down. The doctor sits with a smug smile. He thinks that Zhong Ma will definitely not be able to win the argument. A girl's sighs can be heard from the room upstairs where the treatment is taking place. She looks at the main character and moans when he performs a healing procedure. The hero looks at her nervously and says nothing. The hero asks the system if this will really help the girl with her problem. The system tells him to calm down and relax because there is only half an hour left. The system tells him to concentrate and listen carefully. The hero agrees. The system explains that the guy must find a point in the girl's body called Qi Hai. The system instructs him to give 3 injections and begin the acupuncture massage. The hero inserts needles into the girl's body. He sees a reddish glow begin to come from that place. The system says this is good because the energy has now started flowing out. The girl exhales and moans. Finally, the hero gets up and says with a smile that he has completed the procedure, and now the girl is completely healthy. Then there is a loud knock on the door of their room. The chairman opens the door and enters the room. He asks how everything is going. The hero smiles and says that he has already completed the treatment and that everything went well. The girl is happy with the procedure. She did not expect that he would turn out to be a master and believes that she should appropriate the guy for herself. The girl tells her grandfather that she thinks her illness is now cured. She says that Zhong Ma can really cure this. The chairman is surprised and delighted. The girl looks at the guy and thanks him for the procedure. The hero is modest and says that this illness is easy to cure, and that it is not worth such gratitude. The doctor, with a sullen expression on his face, takes the girl's hand and begins to check her pulse to see if she is telling the truth. The doctor becomes convinced that this is true and that Zhong Ma was indeed able to cure her. He is extremely surprised and does not understand how the guy managed to do this. Zhong Ma approaches the doctor and happily asks if their deal is still valid. The hero says that this illness is very minor, so money is not too important. The doctor gets angry and says that he always keeps his terms of deals. The doctor leaves the room and tells Zhong Ma to wait a little. The hero rejoices that he is now rich. The action then takes place a little later. In the city, the hero is driving in a car. The guy thanks the girl for agreeing to give him a ride. She modestly replies that she should thank him for the treatment. The hero rejoices and thinks that he had no idea how easy it is to make money. He decides to ask his friend what to spend it on. The system suddenly warns the hero that a powerful energy is approaching them. A blue glowing trail is visible in the sky. The hero asks the system in bewilderment what it is. They tell him that this is something not from his world, and that they should go and look at it. The hero is surprised when he hears that this phenomenon does not come from the mortal world. The stream of orange energy that the main character noticed flies towards the trees. It flies into the trees and breaks their trunks with a loud crunch. A cloud of smoke is visible at the impact site, behind which nothing else is visible. From the impact and noise, the birds fly away screaming. The hero looks frightened in the direction where the charge of energy flew. The girl asks Zhong Ma why they stopped the car here. She looks into the distance, but is seen by clouds of smoke. She asks where the main character is looking. The guy asks the system why the girl doesn't see the smoke. The system responds that not everyone can see it. The system warns the guy that it may be too dangerous there and suggests leaving the girl here. The hero agrees with the system's proposal and decides to persuade the girl to stay. He awkwardly says that he remembered that he has a relative who needs to be visited and tells the girl to move on. She doesn't understand what's happening. The hero says goodbye to her and runs away towards the smoke. The girl thinks that the guy is behaving mysteriously, but she is sure that sooner or later he will belong to her. The guy runs out of the way and enters the forest in search of a source of energy. He says the meteorite should be ahead based on the direction of the smoke. The hero arrives at the right place and tells the system that they have arrived. He tells them to go take a look and heads towards the smoke-filled area. The hero says that he sees nothing. You can't see anything in the cloud of smoke. The hero sees a red gem at the epicenter of the explosion. He is surprised and asks what it is. The hero takes it in his hand and assumes that it must be a treasure. The system says that it is not sure what this item is and offers the hero to give it for analysis. He throws the gem into the system window. The system starts a timer and says the analysis requires 7 hours and 38 minutes. She notices that there are more crystals nearby. The hero decides to look for other gems and falls to the ground. He is surprised and notices something not far from where the first gem fell. He finds a green object and tells the system that there is something else here. He looks at the object from different angles and asks what it is. The system says it remembered that it is a purple gold crystal. If you clean it out, you can create a portable space. The hero is surprised and asks the system what portable space is. The system explains to the guy that immortals, being in the mortal world, use many tools. And since they require storage, they use portable space as a teleport. The hero is delighted with the idea of teleportation, like his favorite anime characters. The system says that this is a basic skill and that he will not be able to control the movement point. The hero is indignant at why she is talking about an ability that he cannot use effectively. The system replies that if he raises his cultivation level, he will be able to control teleportation. Suddenly the system shows signs of surprise, which attracts the hero's attention. The system tells the hero to run away from there. The hero asks what happened. A stream of wind and power gathers around the hero. The guy is surprised and comments that someone's very powerful aura is felt here. A man suddenly appears on a tree in front of him. This person is a cultivator named Lu Tang. he tells the hero to give him the crystal he found. The hero feigns bewilderment and surprise and tells the man that he has nothing. The system says that it forgot to say that the crystals will attract other cultivators and tells him to run as he is not this man's opponent. The hero reassures the system and says that he has a plan for this. The action continues in the forest, in the place where a meteorite filled with spiritual energy fell. The cultivator stands on a tree branch above the main character and asks if the hero hasn't heard the name Lu Tan. The hero says that Lu Tan is handsome and strong and asks him to leave the treasure. Lu Tan says that he is right, but the treasure will still have to be given away. He jumps down from the tree and says that he is the most handsome robber in these parts and that he covers the cities within a radius of 10 miles around. Lu Tan jumps off and lands in front of the hero. He tells him to hand over the crystal or Lu Tan will blow it to pieces. The main character gets scared and looks at Lu Tan, but doesn't say anything. He approaches the hero, laughs and says that he was probably scared to death. Lu Tan tells the hero not to be afraid, and that he is a really good robber. The hero, with a frightened expression on his face, tells Lu Tan not to be too happy because someone is coming here. Lu Tan turns around sharply and asks who wants to take his treasures. At this time, the hero escapes. Lu Tan curses when he sees that the guy is missing. He gets angry at the hero and screams, outraged that he dared to trick him. Lu Tan looks at the hero, he in the distance runs as fast as he can away from him. Lu Tan is dissatisfied and says that the main character is still a deceiver. He starts chasing the guy and shouts after him to stop and let himself be killed. The system says that Lu Tan has caught up with them and advises the hero to be careful. Lu Tan swings to strike the hero. He hits, but the main character dodges, and the blow hits the ground, breaking the stone into fragments. Lu Tan gets angry and thinks that the hero should not even try to escape from him. He kicks again, but the hero again deftly dodges and gets out from under him. The hero thinks with alarm that his opponent is very fast. Lu Tan smugly asks where the hero plans to hide now. The system sharply shouts to the hero to take care of himself. Lu Tan quickly and forcefully swings his leg at the main character and shouts at him. His punch misses, the hero is not nearby, he has disappeared somewhere. Lu Tan looks at the empty space in front of him in bewilderment. Lu Tan asks where the guy went, not understanding what happened. The main character exhales loudly with relief when he manages to escape from the enemy. He stands in blue space, he complains displeasedly that he almost died from an enemy's blow. The hero says that he calculated the time of purification. He says that he will be able to enjoy his new ability later. The hero says that he did not expect that one could hide in such a place. The system says people can't stay here for long. Lu Tan nervously asks how the guy could disappear so easily, and if he was actually a master. The hero finds himself behind his opponent and hides behind a tree. He is at a loss because the hero suddenly disappeared. The hero thinks that now he can punish the enemy using teleportation. Lu Tan gets angry and shouts, asking who dared to steal his property. He notices something nearby and gets scared, but there is no one there. He screams and complains that the hero dared to fool him. He turns around and sees the hero in the distance running away from him as fast as he can. Lu Tan asks what's going on. He gets nervous and swears. The action continues in the same forest where the confrontation between the protagonist and Lu Tan takes place. Lu Tan looks around and thinks how the hero managed to escape. He turns around nervously. The hero appears from behind and says that he promised to play with Lu Tan. The hero swings a brick at the enemy and he turns around, not believing that the hero is already behind him. The main character hits his opponent in the face with a brick. There is a loud impact sound. The hero says that you can't take other people's things and cause scandals. Lu Tan writhes in pain. The hero mockingly says that Lu Tan's beautiful face turns into a cracked egg. This makes the man angry. He shouts that he will fight and raises his fist. Lu Tan hits, but misses the guy who managed to use the teleport. Instead, the strike hits the air. Lu Tan is again surprised how the hero managed to disappear and dodge his blow. Suddenly, the hero appears behind him, which scares Lu Tan. The hero says that he already said earlier that he will play with him. Lu Tan screams as the hero suddenly knees him between his legs. Lu Tan's face contorts in pain, he screams from the blow he received. The hero grabs the enemy by the hair and coldly says that he will give him free advice. He begins to spin the enemy and says that he needs to do something before stealing other people's treasures. He throws the enemy to the ground and tells him not to think about leaving with impunity in this case. Lu Tan says that he has realized his mistakes and asks the main character to let him go. The hero with anger in his voice tells Lu Tan to get lost and that he doesn't want to see him anymore. Lu Tan grins and slyly says that now something will change. The system warns the hero that his opponent appears to be up to something. The hero watches as his opponent begins to breathe loudly and gain strength. Lu Tan screams and his clothes are suddenly torn. The hero is surprised that his opponent has transformed. He now looks pumped up and stands in front of the hero with confidence. Lu Tan says that the main character is capable enough that he has to reveal his trump card. He gets angry and raises his fist to strike. He shouts that he will send the guy to hell today. Suddenly, Lu Tan begins to disappear. You can see the confusion on his face at what is happening. The hero watches as the blue funnel swallows his opponent and melts into the air. He asks the system if he can teleport other people. The system responds that this is exactly what he did and sent the enemy to a random location. Lu Tan finds himself in the middle of a deserted desert. He doesn't understand what happened and asks in bewilderment how he ended up here. The hero laughs and says that he hopes Lu Tan ends up in a place where he learns to be a good person. The system warns the hero and says that someone is behind him again. It turns out to be Lu Zhu, another cultivator, who demands that the treasure be given to him. This is Lu Tan's brother. The hero begins to laugh and says that he finished off one brother and another came for him. The man is surprised that his brother came here without warning and says that there is no way the hero could defeat his brother. The hero tells him to ask his brother himself and uses teleportation on the enemy. His brother falls from the sky on top of Lu Tan, screaming. He falls to the ground with a loud sound, creating clouds of dust. Lu Tan asks why his brother is here. He says that this is not the most important thing right now and that he has a question. He asks why Lu Tan came here without warning his brother. He replies that he was worried about his brother's safety. They quarrel among themselves. After this, events take place in the city, next to a multi-story hotel building. The hero walks down the street and complains to the system that he is very tired. He is told that this is because when teleporting he spends his own energy. The system says that he should be careful with his body, since teleportation consumes a lot of energy. The hero notes that now he will not be able to use teleportation for some time. The hero notices something on the street and pays attention. He looks around the corner of the building. There is a girl lying on the ground screaming not to be approached. 3 men stand in front of her, laughing and saying that they will play with the girl. The girl takes a stick and tells him not to come near. She is 27 years old and a college professor. The 3 men say that she is very stubborn, chuckle and come closer. Suddenly the hero approaches them and takes one of the men by the shoulder with his hand. He politely apologizes. He asks if he can join them. One of the men is surprised to see him. A short amount of time passes after this. The hero beat up the bandits and now stands alone in the alley. He is breathing loudly and heavily. He is exhausted and thinks that he spent too much energy teleporting multiple times. The girl stands with a stick and is ready to defend herself. She threateningly asks what the hero wants. He thinks that he just saved her. He smiles and tells her not to swear, since he has already killed the bandits. He begins to explain why he came and takes a step, but stumbles over the body of one of the bandits. The hero loses his balance and begins to fall right on top of the girl. When he falls, he lands face first on the girl and knocks her to the ground along with him. The girl slaps him while the hero unsuccessfully tries to explain that it was just an accident. The hero shouts that he saved her and just accidentally fell on her after that. The girl falls to the ground. The hero thinks that she was too scared and lost consciousness. The system notes that there is a dark aura around her, which indicates poisoning. She offers to take the girl to safety. After that, they come to a hotel nearby. The hero thinks contentedly that such salvation increases his chances. The system is outraged by his thoughts. The administrator says that there are no ordinary rooms left, only large ones. The hero receives the key from team number 105. The administrator says you can't drink here after midnight. They enter the indicated room. A little later, sighs and groans are heard from there. This is the main character moaning. He is tired of carrying the girl and complains that she is so heavy. The system says that the guy must improve his body if he does not want to be in such a state as the chairman. She tells the hero to restore his energy and begin to heal the girl. At this time, a car appears next to the hotel. The girl inside says on the phone that she is already there. She gets out of the car and says that now Zhongma will not be able to leave her. The girl says that she will show the guy Li Wanyu skills. In the 105th team, the hero is messing with a girl. She lies and moans on the bed. With his spiritual vision, the hero sees curling streams of violet aura around the girl's body. The system says that with such severe poisoning, ordinary healing skills will not help. The system says there is only one way to cure her. The hero blushes when he suggests that the method of treatment is obscene. A floor in one of the cheap motels, screams can be heard behind door 115, the guy is outraged by the system's proposal. The system window is in front of Zhong's face. She continues to explain to the guy that there is actually another way to slow down the symptoms of the disease and reduce the girl's fever. Zhong grabs his head and looks towards the bathroom. He guesses what the system is hinting at. A moment later, the guy had everything ready and filled the bathtub with ice and very cold water. After that, he placed the girl. She still did not wake up. The guy blushed at the girl. He asks the system what he needs to do next. There is a red-haired girl standing behind Zhong. With a sneer, she asks if he remembers her. The guy's eyes widened in surprise. He did not immediately decide to turn around. The girl grins while continuing to look at the guy's back. Having fallen to the floor and covered in sweat, he asks again how the girl got into the room. The system window silently watched the situation. The system window begins to explain that it did not immediately notice her strength and that the girl's skills have already reached the 100th level. In the next room, a blushing guy tries to offer the girl something nice. The girl, standing facing the guy, says that this is disgusting for her. At this moment, a strange object flies through the wall. The couple looks at what is happening in bewilderment. Standing up next to the wall, Zhong wipes his nose. His face was angry from the actions of the red-haired girl Li. The couple is hiding on one of the fragments of the wall. A red-haired girl stands in a hole in the wall. She expected more from him, thinking that the guy was actually a cultivator. The guy lowers his head and tries to come up with a plan. He turns to the system with the question of what he should do next, because the guy's spiritual power is over. The system looks at Zhong upset. She explains that the red-haired girl is 20 times stronger than the guy and he cannot cope with her. A hand grabs the guy's jacket. Out of despair, Zhong repeatedly asks what he should do. The red-haired girl raises the guy to the level of her head and looks at him intently. She angrily explains that her family is not someone who can be easily provoked. A guy with a frightened face asks the girl for mercy, calling her beautiful and talented. The girl is still holding Zhong's jacket and standing over him. The guy remembers the recently found stone. He asks the system what kind of stone it was. The system window explains that this is an ordinary immortal stone of the goddess Nuwa. The red-haired girl decides to end this performance, assuming that the guy does not want to give up. Li throws the guy into the wall with all his strength, causing it to break. Just like the previous ones, she adds that she gave him a chance to come to his senses. Stretching her hands, the girl reflects that after her attack, the guy probably survived and most likely flew straight to hell. Zhong, shining with blue flames, flies back into the same hole. He notes that even though the girl is a police officer, she will still have to pay for the destruction of the room. Li looks in the other direction, scared. Blushing, she turns her head, not understanding why the guy still hasn't died. The guy looks seriously at the red-haired girl. The system window notes that this stone not only gave strength to the body, but also created a shield around the entire body. Li, not wanting to answer, kicks the guy in the head with all his might. Zhong manages to block the girl's blow. The guy, smiling, looks at the red-haired girl. He adds that her appearance does not at all match her behavior. Li hits the guy again with all his might. June manages to dodge and the blow hits another wall. The girl continued to attack with a series of blows. Once again, aiming for the guy's face, he kicks, but June dodges this time too. Blushing, is indignant that the guy does not have the right to evade, because in her opinion it is not fair. After this, the girl swings her hand again, but the guy dodges this time too. The blow shakes the air. June jumps behind the girl and with a light movement of her hand hits her on the back of the head. After this, the red-haired girl falls to the ground exhausted. Blushing, she still doesn't understand what's going on, calling Zhong an idiot. The guy, blushing, manages to catch the girl, holding her by the waist and shoulder. The girl's body lay exhausted. Zhong adds that he is very busy right now and cannot play with Li for so long. Zhong looks at the bathtub where the rescued girl was still lying. She was still unconscious. Put down Officer Li. The guy adds that he is still trying to save the girl, but he was prevented. The frame changes again to the same door to room 115. The bathtub in which the girl had been previously turned black. Zhong notices this as well. He is at a loss as to why this is so. The system window explains that this did not help the girl heal completely and the girl still needs an antidote, but now they have time. The girl is still unconscious in the bathtub full of ice. Zhong, holding the door handle, asks what ingredients he needs to find. The system window asks the guy to cool down and listen to her. The system looks angrily at Zhong. She explains to the guy that these are not simple ingredients and cannot be found so easily, but now they have time to find everything within a month and then the girl will be completely healed. The guy looks angrily at the system window. He asks to explain this right away next time, because he is very excited. The door to Zhong's room opens. The guy decides at this moment to put the girl on the bed, because it's wrong to keep her in a bathtub full of ice. A girl enters the room, looking towards Zhong. She clarifies who he wants to hug now. The guy looks at the girl in bewilderment. Girl May stands in the aisle and winks at the guy. She beams with confidence. The guy blushed deeply, looking in the other direction. He wonders what the girl is doing here. May, straightening her luxurious hair, adds that she wanted to meet Zhong and for her, finding someone is not so difficult. The girl turns her attention to the bed. She stood in bewilderment. Officer Lee and a girl covered with a towel were lying on the bed. May indignantly asks what Zhong is doing here with these two girls. Lost in her face, May asks if these are really another of the guy's patients. Confused, the guy tries to justify what happened. Stammeringly, he explains that he is treating a girl, and the other one simply ran into problems. Blushing, the girl turns away from the guy. May is not very pleased with what she saw, adding that she came for a reason and didn't want to see two girls on June's bed. With a serious face, Zhong asks May why the girl was looking for him. The girl, still with a shy face, is trying to say what she is thinking about now. May, looking into Zhong's eyes, asks him to become her assistant and give her therapeutic massages every day. The guy looks at her questioningly. Just as confused, he explains that he will not be able to come every day, because he has school. May, placing her hands on her belt, adds that she had never been interested in such things before and she never asked anyone to help her. Voices are heard outside the apartment door. It was the police searching every apartment. The system explains to the guy that the police have arrived and they are searching the apartments in search of Officer Lee. The guy understands that they should leave. Zhong, turning to the girl, explains that he needs to return to school. The girl offers to let the guy down. There is a luxurious red car at the entrance to the hotel. There are two guards standing at the door with a huge stack of money. After taking their leave, one of the agents informs May that they have done everything and sent everything to school. The girl reminds Zhong with a smile that he won $1 billion from Dr. Jing and she will order her people to put all the money in the machine, otherwise, she will just drive away and leave her on the street with this huge pile. Zhong, with a serious face, thanks the girl for such a large amount, but he does not ask for anything in return, asking the girl to go without him. The girl abruptly leaves the guy, adding that she will not stop and will achieve her goal. The guy follows the car with his eyes. The guy reluctantly looks at the stack of money and wonders what he should do with it all. The system window flies over a mountain of money. She reminds that the guy has portable space and he can put everything there. The system suddenly sucks in all the money. At this time, Zhong cannot get enough of the fact that now he will not have problems with money for a long time. The guy finds everything that happened today strange. The system window asks the guy not to think about it and go relax, because tomorrow he will have a unique training. The guy fearfully asks what other training he needs. The system, having flown closer, notices that the guy's body is exhausted and he doesn't think well. There is a girl standing on the roof of the house with a huge sword behind her back. She silently watches Zhong walking towards the hotel. The guy doesn't notice this and continues to chat with the system about everything. Under the blue sky, you can see the beautiful Imperial Capital Hospital. May enters the room, worried about her daughter's health. She asks if everything is okay with her. A red-haired girl, reading something on a tablet, is surprised to see her mother. May was worried that her daughter had fainted and came straight to the hospital. Officer Lee, stretching her neck, tries to explain to her mother that she lost to a guy named Zhong. May was amazed at what she heard, because she herself knew this guy. She found this coincidence strange. She remembers that her son is also lying in the ward because of this guy. May was angry with Zhou. She was ready to kill him at the first opportunity for his actions. At this time, Zhou and his acquaintance are walking down the street carrying huge packages. The guy, tired, tries to find out why they are carrying such huge bags early in the morning. Approaching the entrance of the bank, Zhou points his finger at the sign and asks if he knows what this place is. The guy stands nearby in bewilderment. A sullen man greets Zhou at the entrance, asking if he can help. Zhou, smiling, explains to the banker that he wants to deposit his funds and make himself a VIP card. The man was interested in this. The man frowns and looks down at the guys, explaining that to create a VIP card they need to deposit at least 600 million. Zhou once again smiles and asks if there are cards of a higher level. Folding his hands and looking at the guys with contempt, the banker pays attention to the clothes of the visitors. This worries him, which is why he asks the security to throw the guys out. Leading Zhou on his trail, the guy shouts that he wanted to deposit 1 billion, and this is how they treat their clients. Friend Zhou was stupefied by what he heard. He adds that if he had known that Zhou was coming to play, he would not have gotten up so early. Hearing this, the banker looks at Zhou angrily. He is surprised by this statement, wanting to teach the deranged guy a lesson. The crowd around the guys laughs loudly, amused by Zhou's statements. The guys don't know what to do after this. At this time, the door to the manager's office opens. The man is worried about the noise this early. A large man comes out of his office asking what is going on and why there is such a mess. The banker bowed to the manager and explained that 2 insane people had come, which is why all this is happening. Zhou smiled confusedly. The guy decides to go to the manager this time and explains that he planned to put his billion in their bank, but they are insulted and kicked out because of their appearance. The banker angrily begins to point his finger at Zhou, shouting that he does not believe in the existence of his million. Zhou, having heard this statement, decides to open one of the bags, revealing a bag completely filled with money. The guy then points his finger to the floor and orders the banker to kneel. At this time, the bank manager abruptly bows at the feet of the guys, apologizing. The guys look at the manager in bewilderment. Zhou, deciding to play with the bank, pretends to leave, hinting that if the banker does not bow out, he will simply leave. The manager, raising his head, orders the banker to do everything the guy asks. After all, this is a big client for them. The banker immediately bows at Zhou's feet, apologizing for his actions. Leaving the bank, the guy with a calm face adds that next time the banker should not look down on ordinary people. Friend Zhou is still excited about the amount of money. He was wondering where he got such a sum from. Zhou hands the card to his friend, inviting him to keep it and use it as much as he likes. Smiling, Zhou adds so as not to be looked down upon. The guy heard tears welling up in his eyes. He is glad that Zhou cares so much about him, adding that he loves him. At this time, the evil system flies up to Zhou, because he spent time on his own affairs and has no plans to do training at all. The system, with the mountains in the background, explains that it has visited Xijing City and they should go there as it is a good place for cultivation. The guy says goodbye to Kuei and adds that he is going to Mount Miaofeng. The guy in bewilderment asks why he went to Mount Miaofeng. Q, with a frightened face, explains that a ghost in red clothes lives on this mountain and it is very dangerous there. In the evening, a lonely taxi drives between the mountains. An unknown man is driving using the navigator. The navigator reports that there will be a steep slope at the next turn and you should slow down. The man, looking at his phone, notes that it was in vain to take the order while drunk. A strange silhouette of a girl in red clothes appears in front of the car. The girl's hair completely covered her face, making it look very creepy. The guy was very scared and screamed loudly. Looking in the rear mirror, the road was already empty. Having adjusted the mirror, the man still could not come to his senses. He didn't understand what he saw now. Considering that this is just a glitch, he decides to get a good night's sleep upon returning home. Looking again in the mirror in the back seat, a strange figure resembling a very thin woman could be seen. The man, worried, sharply turns his head back. The same girl from the road was sitting behind her. An evil smile was visible through her hair-covered face. Between 2 mountains on the same road a very loud cry can be heard, but there's not a single soul nearby. The next day, a brand new Rolls-Royce is driving along the same road. The driver Q is driving the car, and in the back seat the guys are discussing the story the guy told. Zhou is surprised that his friend had the courage to go to these mountains with him. Zhou smiles and notes that he has a wonderful friend. Driving between the mountains, the system notices that if they meet this spirit, they will receive a huge supply of spiritual power. The system, being in front of Zhou, adds that all people consist of the same spiritual energy. At this time, Q had already fallen asleep in the back seat. The system goes on to say that after death the soul is separated from the body. With a thoughtful face, the guy would like to meet the souls of his parents. The system window lowers its eyes and silently looks at its owner. The car passes the next mountains. On one of these stands the same strange girl. The system adds that the souls of ordinary people live after death for about 7 more days, but there are also isolated cases that remain forever. A girl and a guy are standing in front of a cliff. The girl warns her brother that Zhou is very dangerous and they need to return the lost treasure. The guy, looking down, thoughtfully adds that he will come up with some kind of plan. The girl silently looks at the passing car. Against the background of the evening sky, among the mountains there is a lonely hotel. Upon entering the hotel, Q was surprised at how luxurious the hotel was. Zhou at this time booked the presidential suite for them. The elevator slowly descends to the first floor. Q wondered why Zhou needed to go to Miaofeng Mountain. Entering the elevator, Zhou comes up with an excuse that he decided to just take a break from all this money. The elevator door was almost closed. Zhou asks his friend not to ask about it and just have fun while they are rich. A woman's hand appears in the elevator door. The embarrassed blue-haired girl apologizes for disturbing her. She also goes into the elevator. A slightly embarrassed girl stands between the guys. Q couldn't take his eyes off the girl. Zhou was excited by the girl's presence in the elevator. Also blushing, Q notes that it was not in vain that he came here. There was silence in the elevator. The elevator door opens in front of the girl. Zhou decides to contact the system about this girl. The system notices that the girl is trying to hide her spiritual energy, but Zhou can still see her. Zhou does not take his eyes off the girl's figure. The system calls the girl an average cultivator, warning the guy not to worry because there are many cultivators. Coming out of the elevator, the girl once again looks towards the guys. Out of embarrassment, Q calls the girl very beautiful. Coming out on the same floor, Q notices that the girl lives with them on the same floor. Zhou also notices this. The girl stopped in front of the door and smiled a little. Zhou finds all this strange. He silently looked at the girl, but did not say anything to his friend. Entering the room, Q first jumped onto the luxurious sofa. The guy offers to invite this girl to play with them in the evening. Zhou opens the curtain and looks out at the street outside the hotel. With a laugh, Zhou invites his friend to do this and invite the girl to their room a little later. Q assures that this is not a problem for him, because he is already bored with the presidential number. Looking out the window, Zhou observes a strange house between the trees. Zhou immediately comes up with an excuse and decides to go outside for some fresh air. Approaching the strange monument, the system immediately explains that this is the Fengshan Spring and this is where they will begin their training. The guy nods his head approvingly. A strange fog appears behind the guy, from which the same girl in a red dress emerges. Zhou doesn't notice the one behind him at all. At this time, Q decides to prepare to meet the girl. While combing his hair, the guy can't stop thinking about her. Someone knocked on the door, which drew Q's attention. He thought it was Zhou returning from his evening walk. Having opened the doors, Q also decides to immediately ask the question whether Zhou brought food to their room. The same girl stood on the threshold. She was wearing only a towel. The girl asked to take a shower at their home, because there was no hot water in her room at all. Q was on the verge of extreme excitement, and his nose began to bleed. The girl, continuing to flirt with Q, asks again if she can take a shower with them. The girl covered her mouth in embarrassment. She was interested in where Zhou had gone and what he was doing now. The guy, closing the door without any suspicion, immediately replies that Zhou has left and no one will bother them. The girl, still red with excitement, looks at Q. She also adds that since Q is not in the room, she will not be polite. The shot changes to the Fengshan mine, with heavy fog still around the monument. Zhou, standing inside the mine, asks the system what task he was talking about. A system window flies up to the guy's face, wondering if Zhou remembers Chairman Zhang, whom the guy cured. The system adds that its best training for cultivators is water. The system, using the example of Chairman Zhang, explains that the body needs to be trained. After all, if a large flow of spiritual energy arrives, the weak body will not be able to contain it and the owner will simply die. Inspired, the guy's face changed and he was ready to train. The system reminds Zhou that he has all the energy of the master and Sheng, but it is all blocked to him. Zhou, with a thoughtful look, decides to clarify how Mount Xiao Fei and his training are connected. The system window looms over Zhou. It explains that within a 10-mile radius this is the only place where they can train the body to the required level. After the training began, the Fengshan mine lit up bright yellow, and a large amount of spiritual energy flew around the monument. A strong stream of light and spiritual energy also bursts out from a nearby mountain. The system adds that there are strong gusts of energy in this place. Zhou sits in the center of the mine and tries to focus on spiritual energy. His training in this place would last 3 days, but it would be 100 times faster than what an ordinary person would cultivate under normal conditions. The floor inside the temple is covered with a strong fog, the light goes out and the room is covered in impenetrable darkness. Zhou stands in the center of the temple waiting for something. The system notices that the spiritual power in this place is restored just as quickly. The system is outraged that the guy interrupted his meditation and is standing for some reason. It asks the guy to concentrate and train harder. The door opens with a loud bang. A stream of fog enters the temple. Zhou stands motionless when the same ghost in a red dress rushes towards him at high speed. Zhou dodges the ghost's attack with his hand with a slight movement. He continues to look at the girl with a serious face. At this moment, the ghost still manages to touch the guy's clothes, causing the jacket to tear slightly. Zhou was angry that his favorite sweater was torn. The ghost stood opposite Zhou. She did not expect that her mistake could anger the guy so much. Zhou, with flames in his eyes, notices that he has long noticed how someone is chasing him to the temple. A ghost rises into the sky, with her arms outstretched. She was ready to make another series of blows, her hair curled around her pale face. The girl attacks Zhou with the same incredible speed, trying to kill him. But Zhou dodges another attack with a smile and lightly hits the ghost in the neck with his hand. Having hit the ghost, it instantly disappeared, which is why Zhou was confused. Zhou tried to see in the darkness what happened and why the ghost disappeared so suddenly. The fog still enveloped the guy's feet. Zhou observes in his peripheral vision that the ghost has simply moved behind him. The guy was ready for another ghost attack. Turning sharply, the guy grabs the ghost by the hair, shouting that he will find out where the ghost has gone. In Zhu's hands were the hair of an innocent girl in a red dress. She asked not to touch her, because it hurt her. Tears welled up in the girl's eyes. She again asks to let her go. Zhou abruptly lets go of his hair, but does not remove his hand. Covered in sweat, the guy wondered why such a scary ghost was actually a beautiful lady. Under the night sky, shrouded in heavy fog, stands the Fengshan mine. Zhou, with his hands in his pockets, wonders why the girl decided to scare people in the Miaofeng mountains. The girl was sitting on her knees in front of the guy. She decided to find out if the guy remembered the incident that happened a year ago. Zhou was surprised, because he knew that a year ago, a large number of students disappeared from Shijun University. The girl looks at the floor with tears in her eyes. She explains to the guy that she is one of those missing girls, calling her name Suno. Everything becomes clear to Zhou. She looks at the girl and calls her Suno. The girl, bursting into tears and blushing, asks for help from Zhou so that he can take revenge on a man named Jin Taisun. This drives Zhou into a stupor because he knew that this man was a brilliant doctor with a good reputation. Against the backdrop of the temple, the girl decides to tell the whole story of meeting the doctor and how it all happened. From the memories, the girl decides to tell from the very beginning, starting with a job search. She was able to get a job at an international hotel. On the website, in the vacancies of the Yunli International Hotel, there was a job posting that required a girl with no work experience for a salary of 50,000. Sitting next to the clients, the girl was amazed that the essence of her work would be to drink alcohol and endure the harassment of visitors. But at that moment, the same Tai-sun came into the room and was able to help her throw out all the people. Remembering Tai's face, the girl adds that they became very close and she mostly kept him company. The girl was confident in this man, but she was deeply mistaken. On one of these days, Tai invited the girl on a trip to the Miaofeng mountains. The girl obediently followed the man. Arriving at this very temple, Tai gives the girl a drink, which makes her dizzy. From the last thing she could hear, "Master, the time had come." The frame returns to the present. Zhou is still standing next to the girl. Continuing to cry, the girl explains that after that she became like this. The system window was very surprised that Tai could do this and create such a terrible monster out of a beautiful girl. The system notices that when the girl died, the guy also dressed the girl in a red dress. There was a loop on one of the wooden boards. which led the system to believe that the guy had hung it up closer to night. The system understands that a weight was tied to the girl's feet in order to separate the 3 souls in her feet and release the rest. The system suspects that the girl suffered greatly and the only way to help her is to return the remaining 7 souls. Zhou was greatly outraged by what he heard. He didn't understand why Tai could do this to the girl. The girl's ghost hugs Zhou, asking him to help her. After all, she cannot tolerate this. Every morning she experiences the pain of 1,000 needles. Smiling, Zhou assures the girl that he will definitely help her pay for what she has done. Having hugged the girl, Zhou asks the system if it is possible to somehow slow down Su No's torment. The system window immediately asks to leave the girl in the temple because this is the only place with strong spiritual energy. Zhou, continuing to smile, asks the girl to wait for him in the temple and not go out anywhere. He assures that he will definitely return when he finds an idea to save the girl. The girl smiles shyly. She is grateful to the guy for everything he is trying to do for her. Zhou decides to look at the source. Water gushes from the mountain in a strong stream. Zhou was amazed at such a beautiful cultivation site. Peren couldn't look away. The system assumes that Tai is a strong cultivator, because he was able to learn the method of turning people into ghosts, warning the guy to be careful. The guy heading to the source asks to start training. The shot changes to a night hotel. Only one room had a light on at the moment. In the shower stall filled with strong steam, the silhouette of a girl can be seen. Q tries to take his mind off the girl and watch TV. The door to the bathroom opens. Q blushed deeply. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl standing in his soul. He believed that the girl herself was hinting at intimacy, because she could have asked the administration to change her number. The girl stands behind Q with a rope. She had a rather gloomy face. Q turns his attention to the girl, not understanding why the girl started walking behind him. Q turns to the girl. He was worried that the girl was standing behind him. The girl removed her hands and held the stretched fabric. The girl pretends to be embarrassed. She smiles and says that she was very bored. The girl's face was crazy. She wanted to finish the guy off as soon as possible. The girl, still wearing only one towel, sits next to the guy. She did not refuse Q's offer, offering to watch the night show. Q was shocked by what he heard. He believes this show is an excuse for something bigger. The girl looks with loving eyes at Q. She was interested in Zhou and where he went. She wanted to watch the show together. At that moment the doorbell rang. Q was unhappy that his friend returned at such a moment. Q, unsuspectingly, opens the door, warning his friend that he is very late. Outside the door stood Zhou, bare-chested. His body was not the same as before. His abs were visible, as well as a large number of muscles throughout his body. Q could not understand where Zhou was going and was able to pump up his body so quickly. Zhou, not wanting to stand at the door, asks his friend to move away so he can take a cold shower. The same girl was sitting on the sofa in front of the TV, wearing only a towel. She waved her hand at Zhou. Zhou couldn't understand what was happening here. Q introduces his friend to their neighbor. The girl introduces herself as Roa Bing, but Zhou was not interested in this. She decides not to interfere with the couple having fun, heading to the shower. Q decides to explain that the girl doesn't have water and she came to take a shower with them, but at this time Zhou covers his friend's mouth and asks him not to explain himself. Zhou waves his friend off, wishing him good luck tonight. Q was surprised by this. Zhou, being in the shower, could not get enough of his new body. After all, he only spent 30 minutes and already looks so sporty. Looking at his perfect torso, he emphasizes the colossal energy of the source. Taking the shampoo from the shelf, he could not imagine how strong it would become after a few days of hard training. The guy's head was already covered with shampoo, which made his eyes closed. At that moment, several knocks were heard on the door. Zhou decides to ask again who is banging on his door. The girl holds her towel and opens the door. She approached Zhou with a request. Standing at the entrance to the shower, the girl asks to come to Zhou because she needs to wash her hair again and she can't wait at all. Q lies unconscious behind the sofa. At this moment, the girl goes into the shower room, saying that she will do everything quickly and will not interfere. Zhou, still foaming at the head, asks the girl not to enter the room until he is dressed. The girl approaches the guy from behind, hinting that she is also not dressed. Zhou was very embarrassed by what he heard. There was a dagger in the girl's hand. She decides to ask why Zhou is so nervous. Taking a swing at Zhou, the girl adds that the guy is not nervous because she came to kill him. With a slight movement of his hand, the guy snatches the dagger from the girl and brings it to Joe's neck. She was excited by this turn of events. The smiling guy asks Joe to wait next time when he leaves the shower room. The girl stood nearby, confused. At this moment, Joe's towel suddenly falls to the floor, exposing her entire body. Joe puts the knife away out of embarrassment. The girl screams at him in embarrassment, covering her nakedness. Having tied up the girl, Joe throws her on the bed. He wondered who sent Joe to him, suspecting that Ty did it. The girl does not understand who we are talking about, asking to let her go, because she will call her brother. Hanging over the girl, he looked angrily at Joe. Joe added that since the girl does not want to tell, he will use some dirty tricks. Still tied up, the girl begins to loudly call for her brother. It is not clear where a strong kick comes from on Joe. Joe breaks through one of the hotel walls from such an incredibly strong blow. A silhouette of a man with a tattoo on his arm is shown in the room. Brother Joe stood in the doorway with a serious face. He extended his hand asking for her sister. The door to the presidential suite was open and strange sounds were heard. At this time, Q regains consciousness, holding his head and complaining of pain in his head. Q understands that he was deceived and that she will then follow his other Joe. The guy runs out of the room screaming for Joe to be careful with this girl. Zoe suddenly flies in his direction with his back. Q does not have time to react and do something. Joe crashes into Q's face, causing him to also be carried backwards. The guys fall to the ground. Q loses consciousness again. Rising heavily from the floor, Joe notices that Brother Joe was very strong, but he did not understand why the fall to the floor was so soft. Joe realizes that Q lies unconscious under his feet. He asks how he feels. Joe picks up his friend and begins to shake him. He was very worried about Q's condition. Brother Joe, holding his hands in fists, follows into their room. The guy mockingly believes that Joe killed his friend, but still does not show his true strength. Joe, with a serious face, declares that the guy is a half-baked cowboy who is not worthy of seeing all his strength. This made the guy very angry, so he asked through gritted teeth what he just told him. At this time, confused Joe decides to ask the system how he can defeat this guy. The system calls him the strongest in his clan and that Joe has no chance of defeating him. Joe once again clarifies with the system what he should do, because the guy had no intention of dying. Enraged Brother Joe swings at Joe, wanting to kill him. A system window appears near Joe's face, inviting him to jump through the window, and later develop a plan to kill this guy. Joe, hiding behind the shield of the goddess Nova, jumps back. Brother Joe's blow hits the shield, which causes no damage to the guy. While on one of the top floors, Joe breaks a window and falls out, falling straight down. Brother ZHL, still angry, asks his sister to help him, because this guy is eluding them. Joe is approaching the ground very quickly. Joe lands on his feet without taking any damage. The guy didn't understand what to do next, because Q was still in the room. Joe couldn't leave his friend alone. The system window reassures Joe that Q is not in danger since he is their target, emphasizing that everyone from the Mad Sword clan is many times stronger than him, but they have one weak point. At the same second, Joe and his brother land on the ground. Joe asks the system to hurry up and tell them exactly what weak spot these two have. Joe and his brother stand in a stance expecting an attack from Joe. The system adds that the weakness of these two is physical strength. Brother Roa abruptly decides to attack Joe with a strong kick. The guy manages to notice this direct attack. Joe manages to use the goddess's shield. After numerous blows from Brother Joe, Joe asks to explain to him more precisely what kind of force we are talking about. The system notes that this clan prefers to spend a large amount of spiritual energy on numerous strikes and this is their disadvantage, so Joe must run from them. After hearing this, Joe begins to very quickly dodge each attack of the couple, trying to escape at this time. The guy decides to climb one of the trees. Climbing onto a branch, Joe looks down at the couple. Brother Joe suggests that his sister block Joe's escape route, and he himself planned to deal with the guy. The girl silently nods to her brother. Brother Roa decides to call Joe, demanding that he hand over the purple golden gourd. Joe was at a loss why the guy was asking to give this thing back, because he had already cleaned it a long time ago. Brother Joe was dissatisfied with this answer, because he knew that something like this could be cleaned up in at least 7 years, and he did it as soon as he received it. Smiling, the guy repeats that he must return the item, otherwise he will suffer. At this moment, Brother Joe pulls out an energy sword from his back. The system notes that the Mad Blade clan is very good at using edged weapons. They can also direct spiritual energy directly into the sword. One of the swordsmen can be seen hiding a sword directly in his body. To imbue an object with spiritual power, they have to maintain its human essence. The system considers this method not very effective, because it harms the human body. This is the reason why they are looking for the purple golden gourd. They need it to protect their body from damage. Zhou believes that since the clan of mad swordsmen feel this pain constantly, then they are real suicides. The system also adds that Zhou should be careful because with their sword strategy, they can be very dangerous for him. Brother Zhou, taking out his huge sword from behind his back, looks angrily at Zhou. The system asks you to stick to the plan and continue to wear down your opponent. Zhou smiles and believes that because of this turn, their battle will be much more interesting. Zhou decides to tease Brother Zhou by shouting that thanks to his talent they can become very rich. The guy was amazed by this statement. Brother Ruo became very angry, and the veins on his face began to protrude greatly. He believed that the trees could not save the guy. Channeling all his spiritual energy into the sword, he once again repeats that it could not cleanse the purple golden gourd. Taking a strong swing, the guy adds that he will find this artifact himself. There was hellish anger in Brother Zhou's eyes. The blow was as strong as possible. Zhou was a little confused after this, silently watching the guy's actions. The system window was also hit by such a strong blow. The guy, like the sword, was completely covered with spiritual energy. After such a strong blow, a trail of blue energy passed behind the sword. Zhou did not expect this and did not know what to do after this. The trunk slowly began to crack from the inside. Outwardly, the tree still looked completely ordinary. Zhou manages to jump away before the entire tree cracks and falls into small pieces. Zhou adds that he is pleased with his opponent's courtesy. Brother Zhou was outraged by this statement because it was one of the strongest blows he knew. The guy decides to further strengthen his sword and his techniques for a more effective blow. Brother Ruo swings his spiritually guided sword at Zhou again. Zhou, as always, dodges Brother Zhou's numerous attacks without any effort. Zhou notices that the ground under his feet begins to shake from this series of blows. The ground underfoot begins to quickly crack and tremble from the 1,000 lightning strikes of the mad swordsman sect. Brother Zhou stops and then begins to breathe heavily. His spiritual energy gradually began to run out. Zhou, continuing to incite the guy, believes that this was too weak. Brother Zhou was amazed at such impudence. Zhou pathetically keeps his hands in his pants pockets. He invites the guy to demonstrate his strength. Brother Ruo was still amazed. After all, Zhou was the first who was able to dodge such a strong series of blows. Zhou flexes his fists with a smile. The system notices that Brother Zhou has spent half of all his spiritual energy. Zhou silently waves his head away. Sweating, Brother Ruo still holds the sword in his hand. He laughs at the guy for everything he said. The girl, standing to the side, wondered what she should do next, because her brother had already exhausted his spiritual power. Brother Zhou, with the last of his strength, decides to swing at Zhou again, but with a regular blow. Zhou says too slowly and kicks him in the face too slowly. A black car drives into the woods nearby. The headlights turn off and a man's voice is heard. A slightly tipsy couple sits in the back seat. The girl unbuttons the guy's shirt, affectionately calling him a prankster. Out of great embarrassment, the guy takes the girl by the shoulders and calls her, baby. At this moment, Brother Zhou flies into the car with great speed. The car was badly crushed, and the guy landed in the passenger seat. He still considered Zhou weak, suggesting that he surrender. Zhou slowly climbs his feet onto the hood of the car. Looking into the wrecked interior of the car, Zhou mockingly asks the guy to apologize for ruining the couple's date. Brother Zhou shouts angrily that he actually gave in to the guy, because he is many times weaker than him. Breaking the car in half with his hands, Brother Zhou shouts that he will finish Zhou off today. Pa looks at what is happening in fear. Laughing, Zhou asks the guy to demonstrate that he is much stronger than him. Brother Zhou, pushing off from the back of the car, takes off after Zhou, demanding that he not run away from him. Zhou once again eludes him. The couple remains scared in the broken car. They can't come to their senses after what they saw. After dodging another blow from Brother Zhou, Zhou warns that he is giving him another chance to show what the guy is capable of. Brother Zhou's sword is suddenly pulled into Brother Zhou's empty hand. The guy rechannels all his spiritual energy into the sword and swings at Zhou with the words die. The blow was strong, which also left a strong spiritual trail, but there was no damage to Zhou at all. Zhou tells the guy with an angry look that this is too slow and a disgrace to his clan. Zhou offers to show how to really hit. At the same time, instantly hitting the guy in the stomach. Zhou notes that the guy's blows are too slow and won't kill anyone. Brother Zhou flies to the ground, a fountain of blood flies out of the guy's mouth. The guy falls to the ground with great speed. Zhou is left looking at him in the air. Brother Zhou, unable to get up, continues to fight with himself. He is angry at Zhou for what he did to him. Zhou lands directly on Brother Zhou at great speed, causing the ground to crack in the area. Zhou is surprised that the guy disappeared, because he was definitely aiming for Brother Zhou. At this time, having taken his brother, Zhou jumps to the side. She believes that her brother is unable to fight and they should retreat. Zhou is surprised by this turn of events. The girl was amazed that Zhou found out about their weakness and was able to outplay her brother. Brother Zhou is in serious condition. Brother Zhou assures that next time he will deal with the guy and this will be the end. With his hands in his pockets, Zhou explains that the very next time they meet, he will be many times stronger. Returning to the hotel, Zhou picks up his friend from the floor, noting that he already has quite a few enemies and he needs to become stronger so that he can protect his loved ones. The next day Q came to his senses and was surprised not to see his friend Q. Reading the messages on his phone, Zhou writes that he went on a hike, and he prepared a surprise for Q. At that moment there was a knock outside the apartment door. Q could not understand who could come this time. He didn't want to see yesterday's girl after the events. 3 beautiful girls came through the door. The girls offer to give a massage, which has already been paid for. Q was amazed by this surprise. One of the girls puts her hand on Q's shoulder. She asks whether the guy feels good and whether he should make him stronger. Breaking into smiles, Q stopped thinking about anything. He was happy with everything these girls did. The girls massaged his legs and chest. One of them decides to ask whether Q likes their 6 hands massage hotel. The guy silently enjoyed this process. The girl standing behind puts her breasts on Q's head. The guy started bleeding from his nose. He thinks that this is the most beautiful thing in recent days. The girl continued to massage the guy's body, asking whether the guy liked everything. Q, feeling her hands, became a little embarrassed. The shot changes to the huge Miaofan mountains. Zhou struggles up the stairs. He keeps count of how many steps he has already climbed. Zhou was completely covered in sweat, his body burning from the effort. Having once again climbed to the very top, holding a huge log, he ends at the number 2 million. The shortness of breath guy tells the system that he has finally finished and climbed 2 million steps. The system window appears nearby and is surprised that the guy is already tired. He still has 5 million steps to climb. The guy, smiling, believes that he needs to continue. His whole face was wet. Among the mountains, Zhou's voice is heard, who says that he must become even more resilient. The shot changes to a luxury building in the city center. The building looked like the office of a fairly serious company. There was a doctor standing in the office, looking out the window, wondering who would be the next victim for his practice. With a smile, he believes that his experiments require better victims. The man's secretary comes up to the table and reminds him that the master is already looking for girls. The secretary hands over information about new girls. There are 4 different folders on the table with information about the doctor's future victims. The doctor believes that these girls will be rewarded by being chosen personally by Tai. With a grim smile, Tai decides to look at one of the girl's files. The guy, sitting in his leather chair, notices that this girl is Zhou's girlfriend. This amuses him greatly, because he is sure that it is the right girl. In Tai's hands is a form with a photo of Li Huizhu, as well as important information for him. The shot changes to a luxury multi-story hotel, with a circular staircase with numerous fountains at the entrance. Women's legs come out of the shower stall. The girl is talking on the phone and solving her next problem. The girl, covering herself with a towel, is still trying to lure Zhou to work as an assistant. Zhou is still at the source talking on the phone. He laughs at the girl's stubbornness. Zhou nevertheless agrees with the girl's proposal and decides to become a personal assistant. The girl, blushing, did not believe what she heard. She decides to check with the guy. Coming out onto the hotel balcony in only a towel, the girl offers to meet. Zhou, with a serious face, asks to come the next day at noon to Miaofeng Mountain. Some kind of plan was brewing in his head. After this, the guy says goodbye to the girl and hangs up. Zhou turns to the system, explaining that he plans to stop Tai and teach him a lesson. The guy wasn't going to look at another victim. Cho, looking into the distance, emphasizes that Tai was already interested in this girl and for him this is the best way to meet him. The system begins to encourage the guy, wishing him good luck and to do it quickly. The system turns to the source, adding that there is in fact another problem that they should solve soon. Joe looks questioningly at the system window. The system says that it has learned information about this source. Several worlds have this source and no one has explored it before. Joe, understanding what the system is talking about, immediately rushes straight there. At the local hospital, the doctor reminds the patient that he needs to take 2 capsules for 3 days. The guy couldn't think about anything else. He looked at the beautiful girl and silently nodded his head. The girl smiles at the guy and asks him not to forget to take his medications, otherwise he won't get better. The guy, blushing, calls the girl the best doctor, adding that without her he will be lonely taking medicine. At this time, a nurse comes in and asks the doctor to hurry up and see another patient. The girl takes her folder and heads towards the exit. She didn't understand what kind of person she was talking about, assuming it was Zhong Ma. A strange golden glow could be seen from the mountain where the mine began. This is what interested Zhong. Having made his way inside, Zhong was very surprised that such a large cave was hidden here. The system was excited, it seemed to it that something was happening next to them. Zhong notes with a smile that he doesn't often see things that Xiao doesn't know. He adds that if something happens, he will protect the system. Angrily, the system assures them that they should be careful and wait for it to analyze the entire area. The guy, not seeing anything dangerous here, stands on the stone, which suddenly begins to move away from under Zhong's feet. Zhong begins to fly down somewhere at high speed. The guy was very frightened by this, which made him scream loudly. The system repeats, so that Zhou should be careful further. Zhong continued to fly into the abyss, stretching out his hand. The guy asks the system to help. At high speed, the guy falls to the floor, raising a large cloud of dust. A moment later, the dust cleared, and Zhong was completely safe under the shield. The Xiao system asks the guy to be more attentive, because if it weren't for the shield, he would have been dead a long time ago. Zhou, getting up from the floor, smiles, noting that he did not expect such a deep cave. Having risen to his feet, the guy can see a huge hand from under the ground, as well as the silhouette of a statue of a head nearby. Zhong was interested in the question of where they ended up. The system asks you to look around more carefully. Zhong was very surprised by what he saw. A gigantic monument with a strange creature holding swords in 6 hands opened before his eyes. The guy, frightened, asks the system what kind of deity is now before their eyes and why it looks so scary. The statue's face was evil, 2 more sinister heads were visible to the left and right of its head, and fangs protruded from its mouth. Zhong was also frightened by the fact that the entire staircase in front of the statue was covered with the bones of dead people. The system suggests that there was a bloody battle at this place, and the Xiao demon statue itself seemed just as strange. The guy approaches the stairs and picks up one of the swords. He is surprised that the statue has 6 arms and 3 heads. Zhou thought it was the demon Jia. The system repeatedly asks the guy to be more vigilant. Cho, rising higher, stands on a strange slab, which immediately lights up with a blue seal. Zhou assumes it's a trap. The room near the statue turns bright blue, which amazes Zhou. All the skeletons lying near the statue begin to slowly stand up looking at Zhou. The guy is trying to find out from the system what it is and in reality he sees it. A large number of half-decomposed people stand in front of Zhou. The system assumes that this is the guard of the monument that previously protected this demon. Zhou is surprised that they were the statue's guards. The zombies slowly begin to approach the guy. One of the recently revived men swings his clawed hand at the guy. Zhou, with a serious face, swings at the zombie. With a strong blow from the hand, the zombie flies towards a crowd of similarly zombied people. The crowd slowly approaches Zhou. The system still asks Zhou to be careful. They should find what protects the Demon King and leave this place immediately. Zhou pulled his hood up and was extremely focused. The guy didn't understand such a rush. The guy was covered in spiritual energy. The zombies stretched out one of their arms in front of them and slowly moved towards the guy. Zhou wanted to see the full power of the sculpted Demon King. The doctor went out into the street and waited for the man who called her. A man approached from behind the doctor, suspecting nothing. The girl continued to wait for the man. At this moment, the man sharply puts a handkerchief on the girl's face, holding her by the waist. The girl is struggling to escape. The girl tried to shout something. Tears began to form in her eyes. Having lost consciousness, the girl hung in the man's arms, the girl's glasses fell to the ground and broke, the man begins to whistle to his subordinates. A van comes speeding around the corner, as we get closer, the back door opens in front of the man's face. One of the subordinates helps place the girl in the trunk, the man nervously urges the guy on. Secretary Taya, sitting behind the wheel of a van, dials the master, she adds that everything went smoothly and they were able to catch the girl. Tai, sitting in his chair, says on the phone that he is glad. Smiling maliciously, Tai hangs up the phone, he also adds that he would like to see Zhou's next move. Crossing his arms over his chest, the guy adds that he would like to see Zhou fight for his girlfriend, at the end, laughing sarcastically. At this time, Zhou was still in the cave, he notices a hole closer to the ceiling of the cave. Zhou, exhausted, thinks that they need to go in this direction. Zhou once again knocks out a zombie with his fist, such a blow to the jaw of a dead man knocks out his remaining teeth. Zhou doesn't feel an ounce of fatigue and continues to shred every zombie that stands in his way. With his next kick, Cho knocks the dead man aside. The dead man lands among another crowd of the same dead men, they continue to step on the guy without any feelings. Growling at Zhou, another dozen of the same dead men rise from the ground, there are many more of them. Zhou notices that he becomes more and more dead each time. Zhou asks the system what he needs to do, because simple attacks do not help him win. The system explains to the guy that he is too weak, which is why he is not able to completely kill the dead, having proposed to still find a source of protection for the dead. With fire in his eyes, Zhou agrees with the system, nodding in approval. Activating his X-ray vision, he turns his attention to the head of the statue, it burned with a red flame, emitting spiritual power. The system window supports it and offers to climb on its head and find out what kind of source it is. Having scattered some of the zombies, Zhou makes his way towards the statue with all his might. Having once again scattered a dozen zombies, Zhou pushes off from the dead man's head and flies over the huge crowd. There were a huge number of snarling dead people around the statue, the guy jumps onto the torso of the statue. Pushing away from the convex parts of the statue, he gradually climbs onto the head of the statue. On top of the head lay a strange box, which Zhou decides to immediately pick up and take a closer look at. Zhou suggests that the treasure of this statue is the devil's coffin. At this point, the statue begins to shake violently, which shocks Zhou. The guy is trying to find out from the system why the statue began to shake. Zhou had absolutely no answers. The statue gradually begins to crack, and a huge devil can be seen from under it, blood red in color. At one of the local universities, a beautiful teacher asks students to calm down. Girl Su, a professor at a Western university with a shy face, conducts roll call. The girl opens her magazine and names the students one by one, checking those present. Some of the students yawn or mind their own business. The entire board in the class was covered with various mathematics equations. The woman moves on to the next student named Zhong Su. The guy immediately answers that he is present. This time the teacher calls the student Zhongma, but there is no answer. The students looked around at each other, but no one knew where he was now, and his workplace was empty. The girl, closing the magazine, asks the students to tell Q and Zhong to come to her office. After this, the girl moves on to her studies. At this time, a strong stream of blue glow emerges from the cave where Zhong was now located. A huge statue of the devil comes to life and tries to move. The ground and walls begin to collapse immediately. System window and Zhong did not know what to do in this situation. Zhong, confused, asks the system what he needs to do. The system immediately offers to simply leave the cave, because they have already received the stone they need. The demon sharply turns its head towards Zhou, looking intently at him. Zhou got scared, shouting that the devil statue had noticed him and he should get away from here. The devil, without any hesitation, decides to hit the guy with his huge fist. Zhou prepares to dodge such a massive blow. The devil's blow hits the wall, causing the stones to shake violently, and Zhou himself jumps to the side. Jumping to the side, Zhou ponders how he needs to defeat such a huge opponent. Smiling, the guy calls the demon stupid because he is not able to defeat Zhou. This made the demon very angry and he immediately tries to grab Zhou with his hand. At that very moment, Zhou decides to use his teleportation skill. Having disappeared a second before the powerful blow, the devil once again misses, hitting the wall. Zhou, being almost on the ceiling, watches as the demon tries to get his hand out of the wall. Zolu, smiling, realizes that the demon is not dangerous to him at all, which is why he decides to have fun with him. But something goes wrong, which greatly surprises Zhou. The entire room is covered in fog, causing Zhou to lose sight of the demon. This worries him greatly. A demon appears from behind, trying to deliver another strong blow. Zhou manages to notice him and is already preparing to jump to the side. But the guy doesn't have time, which is why the entire blow goes to him. Zhou falls to the ground with great speed. This blow lifts into the air all the stones scattered throughout the already quite large cave. The guy had difficulty getting up and was badly injured. His clothes tore on him. The guy was surprised by such an unexpected blow. He could not understand how the demon ended up behind him. The system asks Zhou to hurry up and still leave this cave, because he could not keep track of this demon. Zhou, ignoring the system's proposal, replies that they will talk when they get out. The demon disappears from the ceiling of the cave in the same unusual way. The creature begins to quickly approach the guy, trying to hit him again. This scared Zhou greatly, because the demon did not plan to end there and completely destroy the guy. The demon growls loudly at the guy. His mouth was huge, and his fangs protruded in different directions, which made his mouth even more ominous. Once again the demon hits Zhou, but the guy dodges and the cave slowly begins to collapse. Zhou grabbed the edge of the rock and observed an exit nearby. He planned to escape from this cave. There was a small hole above the ceiling from which light entered the cave. With the last of his strength, Zhou jumps into this hole, warning the system that they are leaving. But the demon was not happy with this situation, which is why he tried to catch the guy by the legs. Zhou manages to escape from the cave. He sits short of breath at the mine. The system still could not recover from what it had seen. Zhou was also amazed at the size of the demon and the fact that he almost caught up with them. The system was amazed by what they saw, but it seemed to her that there could be many more interesting formations there besides the huge demon. Zhou hears the same demon screaming from the hole. The system immediately asks them to leave here as soon as possible. Zhou sits silently on the floor. He thinks about what happened. He was amazed by what he saw. At this time, Q, having finished the massage, lies on the sofa. He lazily eats grapes. There was a knock on the door of the presidential suite. Q pays attention to this sound. Having forcibly approached the door, Q observes the beaten Zhou. The guy holding his hand slowly walks into the room. Q was amazed by his friend's appearance. He did not understand what had happened and why he was beaten like that. Q, coming closer, tries to figure out what happened, offering his help. With the last of his strength, Zhou, standing on his feet, does not answer his friend. At this moment he falls on his friend's shoulders. Q manages to catch him, fearfully calling him Brother Ma. Holding Zhou, Q repeatedly asks what happened to him and why he came back like this. Zhou was completely unconscious. The phone from his pants began to ring. Having laid his friend on the sofa, Q takes out the phone from his pants and decides to answer. Sitting behind the wheel, the white-haired girl clarifies why Zhou did not answer the phone for so long, because she was worried. Confused, Q tells everything, adding that his friend is completely unconscious at the moment. The girl, having changed her face, begins to ask a lot of questions about the guy's health. The girl also adds that she is already on her way to the hotel. She accelerates onto the highway. Zhou forcefully opens his eyes. There was a system in front of him. She asked the guy to wake up because she was very worried about his condition. Lying in his bed, the guy rubs his eyes. The system adds that it did not expect that an ordinary box could have such power. Holding his hand, Zhou complains that his whole body is covered in bruises. He was worried about that coffin on the head of the statue. The system says that it was a time controller, which makes Zhou dumbfounded. He had no idea about such a serious find. The system, by pointing the screen at the guy's face, adds that the guy can stop time with the help of this artifact. Zhou is amazed by what he heard. He asks again that he can stop time. Imagining how he fights with a large number of enemies in the moment stops time. The system also explains that this item has a limited number of uses and requires a large amount of energy. The system shows 3 more keys in the box, suggesting that these 3 keys were important to the Demon King. The keys differed in color, namely, blue, yellow and red. Zhou was surprised to hear about some ordinary keys. At this moment, the door to Zhou's room opens with a girl screaming. The white-haired girl runs to Zhou's bed with tears in her eyes. She was worried about the guy's health. The girl runs towards the guy without stopping. She adds that he has no right to suffer, because he is her assistant. The guy immediately decides to stop time with his new ability. The girl's body freezes a few centimeters from the guy's face. which makes him too nervous. The guy is surprised that he could stop time so easily. He was glad that he could now stop time so easily. The ability dissipates from what, the girl falls into the arms of the guy calling him brother Zhongma. Blushing, Zhong asks the system why time stops so badly. The system, closing its eyes, explains that a large supply of energy is required, because the guy was able to stop time for a second. The girl's red car is already heading back to the city. She tries to find out what happened to Zhong and why he was beaten. Q sat silently in the back seat. The girl suspects that the guy could massage other ladies. Zhou, holding his head, tries to come up with an excuse, saying that he just scratched himself on a tree branch. The girl with a smile offers the guy to change clothes, because in this form people might think that she beat him. Q decides to get involved in the conversation and with a stupid smile asks what Zhong just said. Looking out from the back seat, he also adds that if his friend does not need the girl's help, then he can pick out clothes with her himself. The girl with a smile assures Q that she wants to choose clothes for Zhong. Laughing, Q believes that this is a personal assistant for now, but soon he will be able to call her his sister. The girl, embarrassed, shouts that the guy should not say such things, because she did not sign up for such things. Zhong blushed deeply. The guy silently looked only out the window. At this moment, the girl decides to look at Zhong, because she actually really liked him. At this moment, the girl's car is cut off by a car ahead. The girl manages to react and dodge the collision. She was outraged by this behavior on the road. The car seemed familiar to Zhong. He silently looks at the car driving away ahead. A man is driving at high speed along the central road. A man sitting in a car reports on the phone that he has prepared everything needed for the sacrifice. The doctor was lying in the back seat with her hands and feet tied. While stroking the girl's head, the guy assures that he will take care of the girl and that everything will go smoothly. The girl was unconscious. Approaching the desired location, the guy calls the foreman back to clarify that he has almost arrived. The guy puts his hand on his driver's shoulder. He calls that dough and clarifies that they need to meet at the international tournament. Tai, with crazy eyes, asks the girl to stay in the car and keep an eye on the hostage so that everything goes as it should. The girl with a smile asks to look for clothes while she goes to the restroom. Zhong says goodbye to the girl while Q looks at the shopping center. The girl adds with a smile that if they find suitable clothes for themselves, she will pay for everything for them. Q encourages his friend, trying to find out what kind of girl it was and why she cares about him so much. Zhong looks away with a smile, offering to find Q such a girl. Q shouts that he really needs a girl, because he is the best romantic in the world. Zhong, mocking his friend, runs away from him. At this time, Q, catching him, asks to share at least one girl. A woman's hand blocks the passage of the guys. The girl asks to stop, clarifying what they are doing. The girl, striking a pose with contempt, asks what the guys looking like homeless people are doing in the store. Q indignantly shouts at the girl, whom she calls a homeless person. Zhong stops his friend with a smile. He decides to add that he saw high-quality clothes in this store and wants to buy them. The girl mockingly calls them donkeys, hinting that they do not have enough money for such expensive clothes. Zhong, without listening to the girl, enters the store and begins to choose clothes. The girl indignantly asks to stop touching clothes with her dirty hands. Zhong separates several types of clothes and throws them on the sofa in the middle of the room. The guy, pointing his finger, asks to count all the clothes he put on the sofa. The girl, nervous, asks what the guy just said. She didn't believe that a guy could pay for such expensive things. Zhong with a serious face asks to find the right sizes for him and Q. The girl was completely amazed by such impudence.